So we had a goal. We passed our goal into subconsciousness. We created a really powerful visualization to power our goal. Now we've had feedback, we've had concepts, we've had ideas. But now we have to pass through a stage that many people miss altogether. In many sort of metaphysical teaching methods, they leave this out to much pain and suffering of the people that are following the teaching. They can missing it out and ignoring it can cause serious problems, serious disappointments, and it can waste many, many years of time. And this is testing your feedback. Now, I like to say that you have to do this through a macro and through micro levels. So it's checking things out, running it through these processes, internal and external. So let's have a look into this. On the macro plane, on the macro level, we're talking about this world we live in, this physical plane, the world we share. Now we've got to say that this world operates through various universal laws. It follows strict defined principles. So if you're going to work outside those principles, you're never really going to be a success. We've said from the beginning, haven't we, that we need to work with nature rather than against it. So ideas, if you have an idea, think about it and test it against the universal laws that you know about. Does this fit in with reality? Does this look to be something that can actually work? Does it work on a positive level, or does it not work? Does it work against reality? This is a very, very important thing to do, and you do this physically in your mind. Think this thing through. Remain at all times imaginative, of course. You don't forget about the fact that this is something that happens in your mind on a very spiritual and subconscious level. But at the same time, test it with reality. An example would be, let's say I was put a goal out that I wanted to find my direction in life, and I thought, well, I'll be a doctor. This idea comes to me, and then I look at my age, and I say, well, in 7 years' time, I should be way beyond retirement age. So why would I want to spend all that time training for something which I wouldn't do? Now, the idea might have seemed really good, but testing it against reality makes you think, no, I don't think I'll be doing that. Another idea, imagine at a board of directors, you got a company, a large manufacturing company, and somebody on the shop floor comes up with an idea, or he designs an idea and thinks this could make a fortune. So it goes up the chain of command, and eventually it's sat on the board of directors' desk. And they look at it and they say, no, for various reasons, there's no way this could ever make any money, could ever be a success. So the idea was good, but it was tested against reality and found to be wanting. So you've got to see things on a basic level. You've got to know your subject, basically. And the way you do that is by looking deeply into it. So we're living on a physical plane, aren't we? And we've been given, in this world of ours, we've been given a God-given gift of reason. And this is here to protect us, to help us live in this environment. It keeps us safe, because we know which direction to follow. It's a natural thing. It's a weapon that we use to get through our lives on this planet. So in that case, it's meant to be used. We've been given this a weapon of reason, and the reason we've been given it is because we should use it. So put all things through this process, and then make a decision. Are you going to reject it out of hand because it doesn't make any sense at all? Are you going to adapt it slightly? Are you going to feed it back into subconscious and think, well, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but not just like this. How can I change things? Or are you just going to outright implement it, put it into action, and get on with it? So that's the macro level. On the micro level, you test things through your own internal senses, your own internal being, your own internal essence. You might find yourself saying things like, I didn't do it because it just didn't feel right. So they've been given a warning, haven't you? It didn't feel right because your inner essence has said, no, be careful, don't follow this direction. Or if you are, just be very, very careful. We've all done that, so we've all got this inner teaching. It's a common situation that we're talking about here, which is ignored by many, many people. So always remember to test something on the outer, on the macro level, and on the inner, on the micro level. And then once you've done that, you can head off and do it. But if you don't test, you could end up going off and spending years going in the wrong direction. Many, many people do this because they haven't thought it through on a practical level. And then they also find that they'll start off on something that hasn't worked, and then the same idea will come again, and they'll go off and they'll do it again. And you get a recurring situation that always brings the same problem over and over again because they haven't followed this process. So watch out for your inner warnings, any existing ideas that you've got. Be trustful to yourself. Don't convince yourself that something a direction you're going is true because you want it to be true. Be scrupulously honest. Don't think, I really want to do this, it doesn't feel right, but I'm going to say it feels right because it's what I really want to do. Because you need to fit in with the laws of nature and, as we've basically already said. Now the whole thing sounds a little bit contradictory, but it isn't. Because what it's about here is us learning to look very, very deeply into a situation, to look below the surface and to really work out what's going on before we move forward. It's really it's wisdom, isn't it, we're talking about, and that's what these courses are designed to build. So having done that, we can feel free to move on to the implementing stage, and in the next video we'll start getting practical. We've got a goal, haven't we? We built a beautiful visualization to feed into the goal and then to send it into our subconsciousness. And then any outcomes, we've tested them to see how realistic they are on a macro and a micro level. So what's the next step? Well, the next step is the first step towards your goal. So we've got to decide on what action we're going to take. We've kind of done all the psychological work, all the metaphysical work, and now we need to move on to the practical, what we're going to actually do on the physical world. Because we look back at the analogy of the office block from a few videos ago. Now, that office block exists in somebody's mind. They've thought about it, they've designed it. So inside the engineer's mind, the office block exists. So now you've got to take the office block out of the mind and bring it into the physical world, and you'll get an actual office block. So review your situation now. It's time to review. Have you had any feedback? Have you got any idea how you can use this feedback to move forward? So whether you have it or you haven't, it's time now to act as if you have. Because if you do, if you move forward in a certain direction, then more will follow. Because simply, what better action can you give to subconscious? What better suggestion? It's a massive indicator of the way you want to go by just doing something. So if you do something, subconscious will pick up and say, oh, this is what we're doing. Okay, I'll help now. Or as the old saying goes, God helps those who help themselves. So think now about your goal. Okay, this is the process. What steps do you think you need to move towards that goal? And then concentrate on the very first step, the very first thing you need to go. You don't have to overthink things now. All you need is that very first step. Because if you overthink things, you can get confused, you can get hesitant, and everything gets too much. So just think of that very first step that you need to take to set you off onto on the road towards your goal. Dig deep now into that Mars energy we spoke about, that energy of desire. You really want to get going now. You know what your first step is. Build that Mars energy of desire to get there. Don't forget, every journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So what do? No matter how small this step is, take it. And when you take it now, straight away, get it done, and other things will follow. I'll see you in the next video.